Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachanine Devastation Shunyavadi Pastaja Deshatanine. So today we're continuing our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 13, The Appearance of Lord Varaha. And today we're going to do 4 verses from 14 to 17, and they're the last prelude verses leading up to the actual narration of the appearance of Lord Varaha. So we'll chant text 14 on the board. First, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Manur Uvacha.
Manur Uvacha.
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Snanam Tvihanujani.
Stanam Trihanujani.
Stanam Tvihanujani.
Stanam Trihanujani.
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Bhagavato.
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Vartayami Vasudana.
Snanam Tvihanujani.
Stanam Trihanujani.
Janam Mama Cha Prabho.
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Please chant.
Manu Uvacha
Manurvacha.
Adesheham Bhagavato
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Vartayami Vasudana
Vartayami Vasudana.
Stanam Trihanujanihi
Stanam Trihanujani.
Rajanam Mamacha Prabho
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Manuruvacha
Manurvacha.
Adesheham Bhagavato
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Vartayami Vasudana
Vartayami Vasudana.
Stanam Tvaihanujanihi
Stanam Trihanujani.
Rajanam Mamacha Prabho
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho. Adesheham Bhagavato.
Adesheham Bhagavato
Vartayami Vasudana.
Vartayami Vasudana
Shanam Trihanujani.
Stanam Trihanujanihi
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Rajanam Mamacha Prabho
Manurvacha.
Adesheham Bhagavato
Adesheham Bhagavato. Vartayami Vasudana. Stanam Trihanujani. Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Anybody else?
Manuvacha
Manurvacha.
Adesheham Bhagavato
Adesheham Bhagavato.
Vartayami
Vartayami
Vasudana
Vasudana.
Stanam Trihanujanihi
Stanam Trihanujani.
Rajanam Mamacha Prabho
Rajanam Mama Chaprabho.
Word for word synonyms, please repeat. Manu Uvacha.
Manurvacha.
Shri Manu said.
Shri Manu said.
Adeshe.
Adeshe.
Under the order.
Under the order.
Aham.
Aham.
I.
I
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
Of your powerful self.
of your power
Vartaya.
Vartaya.
Shall stay.
shall stay
Amiva Sudana.
on me Vasudana,
O killer of all sins.
O killer of all sins,
Stanam.
Stanam.
The place.
place
To.
to
But.
but
Iha.
Iha
In this world.
in this world,
Anujanihi.
Anujanihi,
Please let me know.
please let me know.
Prajanam.
Prajanam,
Of the living entities born from me.
of the living entities born from me,
Mama.
Mama.
My.
my
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
also
Prabho.
Prabho,
O Lord.
O Lord.
Translations and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
He.
So Sri Manu said, O all-powerful Lord, O killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. So there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. So which Manu is speaking here?
Swayambhu.
Swayambhuva Manu, what number is he?
Number one, right?
Number one. And who's he talking to? Who's he addressing as, oh my Lord,
Lord Brahma.
Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma's been a little disappointed in that his first four sons, the Kumaras, did not follow his instruction, his order to propagate the universe with progeny. And why do we give instructions to our disciples, our students, our children? Because they're supposed to assist in our service. The students, the disciples are supposed to assist the guru in his service. The children are supposed to assist the parents in their service. So Brahma has this service given to him by Lord Vishnu to create the universe and propagate, fill it with people, fill it with living entities, I should say. So the Kumars did not agree to help their father in that service, but Swayambhuva is agreeing to do so. So he's very glorious. We'll go through all the next 3 verses and then discuss them together. That verse doesn't have a purport. Text 15. Yaroka sarvabhutanam mahimagna mahambasi asya udanina yapno devadevya vidiyatam. O Master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth, which is merged in the great water, because it is the dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. Purport: the great water mentioned in this connection is the Garbhodaka ocean, which fills half of the universe. Text 16. Maitreya uvacha parameshti tvapam madhye tatasna sanam abekshadam katame nam samunishya itidadyo diyachiram. Sri Maitreya said, thus, seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Purport: according to Jiva Goswami, the topics delineated here are of different millenniums. The present topics are of the Shveta Varaha millennium, and topics regarding the Chakshusha millennium will also be discussed in this chapter. One more verse and then we'll discuss them together. Text 17. Srijato me shatir varbi plavyamana rasamgata tatra kimanushtyam asmabi sagayojita yasyam hridayat asam sa isho vidhatu me. Vidhatu me. Translation: Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Purport: the devotees of the Lord, who are all confidential servitors, are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties. But they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and He paves the way for the smooth progress of the devotee's duty. End of purport. So we'll start back in text 14. I found an interesting point in text 14 to be how Swayambhuva Manu is addressing Lord Brahma. And he says, I will abide by your order. And before he says, I will abide by your order, he glorifies Lord Brahma by saying, you're the killer of all sins. So I was thinking how so many people like to give orders. They want to demand respect instead of command respect, right? We all want to be like order givers. Follow me and chastise people and correct people and whatever. But Manu is showing here that I'm going to abide by your order. Why? Why should I abide by your order? Because you're a killer of all sins. And that's the actual position of a leader. If you can't be the killer of the sins of your followers, then don't be a leader. That's what Rishabdev says. Don't even bother being a parent or a demigod or a spiritual master or a worshipful demigod. Just go home and be humble. Don't take a position if you can't deliver your dependence. Deliver your dependence from what? Deliver your dependence from the cycle of birth and death. How do you deliver them from the cycle of birth and death? By killing all their sin. Because you can't get out of the material cycle of birth and death unless you are free from all sin. So it's a very interesting point. It's not that every time somebody tells us, hey, do this, do that, we have to say, yes, sir, and do it. We have to use our discretion and understand who a real leader is. So anyway, I thought that was important because previous to this verse, Swayambhuva Manu was being glorified as being such an excellent son and later an excellent father. Swayambhuva Manu wants to help his father in the process of creation. He's ready. Okay, I'm ready. I'll produce progeny, but there's one little problem. What is that problem?
The earth is in Bhagavatam.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Well, that would be hard to create progeny if it's
Yeah, he's like, I'm all ready to create progeny. You know, I've got my wife Shantarupa. We're ready for it. But where are we going to put them? There's no place to populate, to let them be the populace of. So, my dear father, could you lift the earth out of the deluge caused by the Garbhodak ocean and give us a nice dry place to put all the living entities on? And Lord Brahma says, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Guess I should do that. And he thinks for a really long time on how to do that service. It's not that we look at it and go, oh my God, that's impossible. I can't do that. I don't have the muscles to lift that thing. I don't have the intellect to figure it. No, give that service to somebody else. Rather, he said, oh wow, this is a formidable task. Let me meditate on it, how I can do it. And after meditating on it, he said, you know what? The best thing we can do is depend on the Supreme Lord. We give our effort, but that's not going to be enough. We have to depend on the mercy of the Lord. And indeed, that's one of the main lessons of this month of Damodar. Yashoda tried her level best to tie up baby Damodar, didn't she? Can you accuse her of not trying hard enough? We read descriptions that she's perspiring. The flower garland fell out of her hair. Her braid undid. Her clothes are practically falling off. She's exhausted. And she's mentally exasperated. Also, come on, Krishna! You know, she's on the verge of like having a breakdown. She gave it her all, not 99%. You lose. In this game, it's all or nothing. So, you know, you might be proud of your 99%, but it's got to be 100%. So Yashoda gave her 100% plus. And then when Krishna saw, not before, not, 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, when at this point in time he saw she has actually dug so deep that she's given 100%. Now, I will do my part. And that is, I will be submissive and let my devotee tie me up with ropes. I will let my devotee be successful in her attempt to serve me. Because it was an attempt to serve Krishna. Her tying him up with a rope was actually a service to Krishna. Because she was afraid that Krishna was going to run away. She wanted to keep him at home. So Lord Brahma similarly is showing us that every devotee, whether you're Lord Brahma or your mother Yashoda, or little Sadhaka at the temple, every devotee has to accept a service which is, biting off more than you can chew, as they say. Every devotee has to accept a challenge, a challenging service, a challenging schedule. And then dig deep and try your best, and then depend on the Lord to give the mercy to empower you. Because unless we're empowered to do something, then we're just doing mundane activity. Whether we're making garlands or shoveling the soil or dressing the deities or cooking in the kitchen, it's just a mundane activity if we're just doing it by our own strength and not depending on the mercy of the Lord to empower us. So an interesting thing brought up here in these purports, Srila Prabhupada, the Bhagavatam is now, okay, first of all, Swayambhuva Manu is speaking to Lord Brahma. Whose discussion is that a part of? Who's relaying this ancient conversation? We're over here in the 7th Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. And this is happening way back in time. Swayambhuva Manu at the beginning of this day of Brahma, speaking to his father Brahma. So who's telling us this story of Maitreya, excuse me? of-
You threw
Darn,
the
I gave it
answer.
away. Darn.
Who's Maitreya speaking to?
Who's Maitreya speaking to?
Nora?
Vidura. So Maitreya is telling Vidura that Brahma and Swayambhuva Manu had this conversation. Who's telling who that Maitreya and Vidura had a conversation?
Sukadeva Goswami. In the Sukadeva speech?
Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit that Maitreya had a conversation with Vidura. And in that conversation, they quoted Swayambhuva Manu and Brahma's conversation. Who's saying that Shukadev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj? Sutta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. So the Bhagavatam is Sutta speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, and the sub-conversation is Shuka Dev speaking to Parikshit, and their sub-conversation is Maitreya speaking to Vidura, and one of their sub-conversations is Brahma speaking to Swayambhuva Manu. So we see that this is an ancient history handed down by Pacific succession. And when they spoke, when Maitreya spoke to Vidura, to answer Vidura's question about Swayambhuva Manu's glories, Jiva Goswami says that he merged two narrations of Lord Bor, or Lord Varaha. So he says that Lord Bor appeared in a white form during Swayambhuva Manu's rule. Like right now, this is actually when Swayambhuva is asking Brahma, could you please lift the earth because it's drowning, it is already drowned. It's the Shveta, white Varaha avatar that's going to appear to lift the earth.
First time.
But Maitreya, but at the very beginning of the day of Lord Brahma, but Maitreya, for his own reasons, has merged another story with that story. So he's merged 5 Manus later. Chakshusha Manu is the 6th Manu, we're in the 7th Manu. In the 6th Manu period, Manvantar period, Lord Varaha appeared again. And he was Rakta Varaha, he was red. And what did he come to do? He came to kill Hiranyaksha. So the white Varaha, he appears from the nose of Lord Brahma. And the red Varaha, who actually kills Hiranyaksha, appears from the water.
From where?
The water, the Garbhodaka
Okay.
ocean.
Thank you.
So, Jiva Goswami says that at the end of every Manu period, there's a devastation, a deluge. But the original commentator on the Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami, says there's not. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur agrees with Jiva Goswami, because Jiva Goswami actually supports his position by quoting different Puranas. So Srila Prabhupada accepts Jiva Goswami's and subsequently Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's position that at the end of every Manu period there's a devastation of some sort, a deluge. That happens at the end of the Manu period, before the next Manu takes over. But interestingly, Jiva Goswami explains in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, just like last week we were mentioning that Sanatana Goswami wrote Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the great. Rupa Goswami wrote Laghu Bhagavatamrita, small. And in that Laghu Bhagavatamrita, he explains that during Chakshusha Manu's reign, a very unusual thing happened. And what was that unusual thing? A devastation occurred right in the midst of Chakshusha Manu's reign. It's supposed to happen at the end of the Manu period. But a devastation happened in his Manvantar period. And Jiva Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita says that in the Matsya Purana, it said that the reason this deluge happened in the period of Chakshusha Manu is because there was a curse by a Brahmana on Chakshushamanu, that while you're reigning, there's going to be a deluge, just like as though it was the end of your period. But then Jiva Goswami quotes another Purana, the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, that says that, no, the reason there was a deluge in the midst of Chakshusha-Manu's reign was just by the pastime of the Lord. So Jiva Goswami gives both explanations. He doesn't make a conclusion on which one he accepts as, the real reason. But he does conclude that there's a deluge there. During that deluge, Lord Bor in his red form, red Varaha, he appears from the water and he comes to kill Hiranyaksha, who is the brother of Hiranyakashipu. So all these literatures, the Puranas, etc., are compiled by, as we know, Vyasadeva. So sometimes we're going to see little discrepancies. Well, the Matsya Purana says that it was a curse by a Brahmana on Chakshushamanu, but the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana says it was by the Lord's pastimes. We might see some little disagreements there, but ultimately the truth, the essence of the Leelas, etc., are coming from Veda Vyas. So I was looking up a little while ago about Vyasadeva, and we know that in a day of Brahma there's 1,000 yuga cycles. Satya, usually it's Satya, Dwarpara, because Dvi means two. So the usual is Satya Yuga, Dwarpara Yuga, Treta means 3, Yuga, Kali Yuga. But once in every day of Brahma, Krishna himself decides to appear. And right after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, once in the day of Brahma. And he always comes on the 28th out of 1,000 yuga cycles. He comes in the 28th yuga cycle. At the end of, in the 28th yuga cycle. And when that happens, for some reason, though I don't understand it, Treta Yuga and Dwarpara Yuga change positions.
Huh.
There's an overlap. So in this particular yuga cycle that we're in, it's very unique because it goes Satya, Treta, Dwarpara, Kali. But as the names imply, it's usually Satya, Dwarpara, Treta, Kali. So in this yuga cycle, Treta comes before Dwarpara Yuga. In chapter 3 of Canto 1, Krishna, the source of all incarnations, a list of the most major, prominent incarnations of the Lord are given in chronological order. I think there's 24 or something like that. And there it says that at the end of the Treta Yuga, remember now Treta's appearing before Dwarpara, that it's in, and in another place too, I read that each yuga has 3 divisions. There's the body of the yuga, which is 80% of the time, and then 10% is the beginning sandhya called Prarthama Sandhya, and the last 10% of the time is called Shesha Sandhya. Anyway, so that's the yuga. So in that Shesha Sandhya of the Treta Yuga, Vyasadeva appears as the son of Parashara Muni in the womb of Satyavati. Until I just looked at that this morning, I would just, my, speculation, assumption, I was assuming Vyasadeva appeared kind of like in Dwarpara Yuga when Krishna did.
Hmm.
But here it said, and then it said Lord Ram appeared after him. The list is chronological. And we know Lord Ram appeared in Treta Yuga. That we know for sure. Prabhupada explains that in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita where he gives gives the history of the speaking of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. And, whatever. So, Vyasadeva actually took birth from the womb of Satyavati as the son of Parashara Muni way back before Dwapara Yuga, at the ending times of Treta Yuga. And he lives forever in Badrik Ashram, in his ashram called Samyapas. So he's still going, he's still living, he's not deceased. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga is when Krishna appears, right before the commencement of Kali Yuga. And when Krishna appears, Vedavyas is still there, and he sees that, oh my God, Kali Yuga is about to come, and boy, oh boy, are those people unqualified. There's so much problems with Kali Yuga. So he takes the Veda. Originally, the Veda is one, so there's no S at the end. It's the Veda. That was spoken through the Lord's flute to Lord Brahma when Brahma was manifested from the lotus flower of Garbhodakashi Vishnu. So that one Veda is extant up until the end of Dwapara Yuga. Then Vyasadeva takes that one Veda and breaks it into 4 divisions: Artarva, Sama, Yajur, and Rig. Vedas. Now we have Vedas plural. And then, after doing that, 4 divisions of the Veda, he also compiles the itihasas, or histories, and Puranas. Puranas are also histories in the sense of that they're old stories. But they're not chronological histories. The itihasas are like histories, facts and figures and dates and like that. Whereas the Puranas are teaching lessons through stories, ancient stories. So he compiles all these things so that in Kali Yuga we can have it in easily readable form, because our memories are so terrible. And we can't read all of the Veda anyway, so he's got to boil it down to the essence. So interestingly, I read an article, I didn't look for it this morning, but I've read it before, that Vyas means divide, so he's also called Veda Vyas. He divides the Vedas. Vyasadeva. It's a title, it's not a name. Like Indra is a title, not a name. You can be Indra next time, you can be Indra next time, like that. So Vyasadeva is a title, it's a position, and he actually appears every single Yuga cycle. But in this Yuga cycle, the one that Krishna appears in, he's not just a Shakti avatar, like a living entity who's empowered to do some important service. But in this Yuga cycle, he's actually a plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. Years ago, I remember me and another devotee were having this discussion because there were some discrepancies, and he had this question, he had this doubt about what's the position of Vyasadeva, because over here, Prabhupada says he's a Shakti avatar, and over here he says he's a plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. So I was doing some research, and then we were going back and forth, and we understood then after I read that article that they're both right. Both statements are right. Prabhupada didn't make a mistake. Normally, Veda Vyas is a living entity, Jiva, Atma, who is Shakti avatar. But in this Yuga cycle, he's a plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in this Yuga cycle, he's called Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas. Krishna Dvaipayana is his name, and Vyasadeva is his title or position. So we have a very special Vyasadeva in this Yuga cycle. Because sometimes you go on a book distribution, right? And people ask you, okay, well, how did these books come to be? Like, who gave you the book? Like, who wrote down the Sanskrit? Some guy wrote down the Sanskrit? Some human being wrote down the Sanskrit? We say no. And we open up that picture of Veda Vyas, compiling on the palm leaf. And we say, no, he's an incarnation of God. God himself compiled the scripture. Because in this Yuga cycle it is so. So anyway, Vedavyas, for his own purposes, probably for brevity's sake, decided to amalgamate the stories of the Shveta Varaha, who appears at the beginning of Lord Brahma's day, at the beginning of the Swayambhuva Manvantara period. And Lord Varaha appeared, we're going to read starting tomorrow. He appeared in order to lift the earth out of the water so that Swayambhuva Manu could have a place to put all the living entities he's about to propagate. And then, but Vedavyas is going to merge the two stories of in Chakshusha Manu period when the red Varaha appears to slay the demon Hiranyaksha.
You're a detective.
So that's the little history. And tomorrow we'll begin on text 18, which actually now starts the narration of the appearance of Lord Varaha. Ganesh Prabhu.
Yeah, you're explaining the Yuga cycle as divided into three sections, 10%, 80%, and 10%. So the Dwapara Yuga that Krishna appeared in overlaps the Kali Yuga where Lord Chaitanya appears at the beginning. So that overlap, I'm interested in understanding where Srila Prabhupada said that if we become very serious about this movement, about Krishna consciousness, we could actually reverse the cycle of Kali Yuga. And I'm wondering if this overlap is part of that energy.
Yeah, it's interesting because it said, I read, I think it was in the 8th canto long ago, I read that the Yuga Dharma, every Yuga has its Yuga Dharma, right? And in this age it's Harinam Sankirtan, congregational chanting of holy names of the Lord. That the Yuga Dharma is propagated by the Yuga Avatar during the Praratama Sandhya, the beginning Sandhya of the age. So we're actually still in the Praratama Sandhya. We're not even in the body of Kali Yuga right now. If you think things are bad, stick around for a little while. So yeah, the Sesha Sandhya of the previous age and the Praratama Sandhya of the current age have some overlapping. And I remember researching on the database to see where Prabhupada, because it's a famous Prabhupada said that my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years, which sounds really great, you know, and that there's going to be a 10,000 year golden period. And every time you try to look that up, you don't find a primary source of Prabhupada saying that. You only find secondary sources of devotees saying Prabhupada said, you know. So that one too about Prabhupada saying we can reverse the flow of the yuga and this and that, make it like a Satya Yuga or whatever. Again, I have never seen a primary source for that. I've only seen devotees say that Prabhupada said, which doesn't make it false. I'm just saying, if you want to do technical research, you have to quote primary sources. I mean, if you want to be academically legitimate, you know. So in our own little insular group here, we can say Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, and kind of take it on faith or whatever, but there's no primary source to quote, unfortunately.
So maybe a rumor, maybe true.
It may be true, Shirag Prabhu.
In the 9th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada talks about Ram Raj, when Lord Ram was ruling, when he was the emperor. And he said, in that kingdom, there was no fatigue, there's no bereavement, no mental disturbances, there was no old age, and they said people didn't have to die if they didn't want to. And in that purport, Prabhupada said that in the stage of Kali, Ram, Krishna, you know, they're present in the chanting of the holy name. And Prabhupada mentions, so being that Ram and Krishna are present in the holy name, he said, if we chant the holy name without offense, we can create, and he uses the word immediately twice in that purport. said we can create that same atmosphere of Ram Raj.
Mhm.
No fatigue, no bereavement,
Mhm.
no ill weather, no, so forth, so on. And he said we can create that same atmosphere immediately if we chant the holy name without offense.
Nice. So that kind of addresses Lanka Ganesh Prabhu's
That's
point,
right.
that where Prabhupada said we could kind of reverse it, go back to Ram Raj. But of course, you can't have Ram Raj without Ram. So that's the problem in the world today. Everyone wants to have fantastic, one world governments and this and that, the other thing, but they have kicked out Lord Ram. So only the Vaishnavas could ever lead a one world government which is truly Ram Raj, because only the devotees have Lord Ram,
One more question. Growing up in the movement as a devotee, you hear the stories of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and there was, we would hear in classes that the earth was in its position, but due to Hiranyaksha exploiting and extracting all the gold out of the earth lost its position in its, in the universe and fell into the Bhagavatam. And what I'm hearing today is, that there was a devastation.
And that devastation might have been caused by Hiranyaksha, I mean, it might have been concurrent, I should say, that because the waters rose to such an extent, all you had to do was put a big toe on the earth and make it drown, So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not that when we're reading this pastime in the third canto that we're saying, oh no, Hiranyaksha wasn't getting killed in the water, the earth wasn't drowned at that time. What it is saying is, it's not the same as back when Swayambhuva was asking Lord Brahma, could you lift up the earth so I can populate it? Swayambhuva's gone by the time Hiranyaksha's around, because he's in the Chakshusha Manu period, right? So Jiva Goswami said there was a devastation, and he speaks about the devastation as that's when Matsya Avatar made a special appearance. Matsya Avatar, Jiva Goswami says in Laghu Bhagavatamrita that he appears 14 times in the day of Brahma, because he appears at the end of every Manu period, but he had a special appearance during this inundation during Chakshusha Manu's period, like an encore performance or something. But in any case, we don't say that when Hiranyaksha was doing his evil business that he didn't have, a part to play in the earth falling into the water. More details aren't given, but yeah, Prabhupada makes that point strongly. That he even goes so far as to say, if modern scientists keep drilling oil out of the earth like they are now, the earth is going to lose its center of gravity and it's going to plummet into the Garbhodak Ocean. He goes that far to say it could happen again.
And it's interesting to me, because I'm trying to perceive, Srila Prabhupada talks, we hear about the Dwapara Yuga, and Prabhupada makes statements about how things were so much more advanced in so many ways, and such things were much better than this time. So that Dwapara Yuga being out of its sequence, does that mean that that Dwapara Yuga was actually more advanced than normally Treta Yuga would be?
Yeah, like I said, I don't really understand what that means, that Treta and Dwapara switched positions besides just the names, because we still hear Satya Yuga is, 1.8 million years long, and then the next one, Treta Yuga, is 1.3 million years long, and then Dwapara Yuga is 860,000 years long, and Kali Yuga is 432,000 years long. We still hear, we hear vice is 0 during Satya, 25% during Treta, 50% during Dwapara, and full blown in Kali Yuga. I don't really know what that means. I honestly don't know what that means.
So
We'll take, I'm sorry if you're not finished.
No, I was just going to say one other point, is that in the Chakshusha Manu, when you mentioned that the Brahmins first, and then you know, the Lord gives, in fact, I didn't see any contradiction there because the Lord could work through that way.
Right, right.
Her, so it's not,
So Jiva Goswami's just putting those out there on the table and, you
no
know, it's up to
contradiction
us
because
to,
the Lord does that all the time, you know, makes arrangements for others to happen. Or
Yeah.
things.
yeah. Let's go to Kaivalya and then back to Shura.
I think it's really interesting and amusing when reading Mahabharata, and it's like when you're having all the discussions about what to do, the kingdoms and everything, you know, it's really intense, and, you know, because the Pandavas were completely trying to, you know, do the gambling match, and Krishna was trying to tell them, let's just settle it, like, you know, let's not go to war, let's be fair. And they wanted to get everyone's opinion, and Vyasa's there too. And Vyasadeva is all humble, and you know, he was so hard to look at because of all his austerities, that with the story about how the Pandava's
Right.
father
Right.
and Vidura and Dhritarashtra were born, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that this is actually Krishna, and you know, he's taken a whole different role. But it's funny when they're just like, he'll support, I think what Krishna's saying is right. And it's just kind of amusing because devotees can read it with a whole different vision than just say the non-devotee that reads it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's kind of funny actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll end with Shura.
There's one story that Bhagavatam Ryan told me when he was outside of Prabhupada's room, I think in a courtyard, outside of a window, and you know, he was making some sort of disturbance while Prabhupada was translating, and Prabhupada came and he threw something at him. And he told him, you know, don't you understand? I'm writing the law books for the next 10,000 years. Why are you disturbing me?
Mm-hmm.
One of those.
Yeah.
What he said, Prabhupada said.
Right. Unfortunately, not everything Prabhupada said had a microphone, wasn't, you know? Not that we don't accept them, but I'm just saying academically, you've got to quote primary sources, you know? Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll end with Krishna.
You tell me if I'm wrong when I'm thinking about, like, when we're thinking about what you get and that Krishna comes in that particular, those three things, different glories and arrogance, status and principles. So what comes to my mind, just like when Krishna appeared, all the planets became auspicious, everything became auspicious. So due to Krishna wanting something to be done, being the Supreme Personality Godhead, things can be arranged. I mean, I could be totally off on
Yeah,
this.
no, that's true. And Prabhupada says in the 10th canto that the Lord has again incarnated as the Sankirtan movement, as the holy name. So if, and that's a big caveat, if we can actually get a group of devotees together to chant Shudanam, not just, Nama Bas, if we can actually get to that level where we're always chanting Shudanam, we can actually make this world auspicious again. The world's going to hell right in front of our eyes. It's like more than obvious. But it's our fault if we're not chanting Shudanam to bring in that auspiciousness. That we really got to work on that. We got to be serious about our japa. I'm sorry, but I don't see a good enough seriousness about japa and kirtan, And we wonder why the world's going to hell. We're just not serious about chanting the holy name. Myself included. I mean, all of us, we got to help each other improve our japa, improve our kirtan. Meditation, listen to the holy name.
It is recorded though where Prabhupada said that, with or without us, this movement will spread.
Well, yeah, but there's got to be some pure devotees.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying, somehow or another, the Shakti
Yeah.
is,
But we want to get the credit.
yeah, he
You
said
said
like
that
that.
about the Balakura Kshetra too.
Yeah,
You're
no,
late
I
in
agree.
the-
But I'm
Prabhupada
just
said
saying,
that
the
about.
Shakti is
yeah.
unstoppable.
Yeah, Prabhupada said that about the Battle of Kurukshetra, that Krishna said to Arjuna, Arjuna, I don't even need you. This war is over in my book, you know, it's history. But if you want to get some credit, come on over here and pick up your bow and arrows, and you could get some credit. Otherwise, I don't even need you. So, like that, Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya don't need us at all. This movement's going to go on. Don't we want to get some of the credit so we can go to Goloka?
Yeah.
Or do we want to be one of the outsiders that don't get any of the credit and stay here?
Yeah.
You know, so it's mercy on us to get some of the credit.
Yeah, but my point was is that about the predictions, you know, the discussion was about, you know, how, you know, 10,000 years, all those sort of things. Irrespective, the absolute truth is recorded in the sense that we know that Lord Chaitanya's movement is dependent on nothing other than the Supreme Lord's energy manifesting. So the details how and, you know, what's said, who said, doesn't really change the paradigm that for 10,000 years that will happen. So even if we don't have a direct quote from someone saying, you know, academically like you're speaking, I agree. But I'm saying we know that much, that there will be in every town and village the chanting of Hare Krishna, which will manifest.
And the proof that we actually know it means we actually believe it, which means we actually dive into it seriously.
Right.
Not just, oh, it'll go on, you know, be a part of it. Give it 100%. Mother Yashoda gave 100%, then Krishna reciprocated. Okay, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Can we do part 2? Part 3 and part 4? That was the most interesting class I've ever been in. Thank you.